Janette, welcome to the podcast.
Hey, Jeff. Nice to see you again.
Yeah, it's been a long time. How's the week been treating you after the sort of the I'm not too sure you have a long weekend. Obviously, we had Easter or
Yeah, so I did have a long weekend. We
Hmm.
had Easter's and then Easter holidays, and I also, have a little bit of a work holiday that I need to clear. So I did have a restful sort of weekend. Unfortunately, Hong Kong is still sort of, around the Easter holidays, we still have very tight restrictions. It's
Hmm.
not a lockdown, but it's restrictions. So basically, it was a very low key, just stay at home kind of holiday break and spending some time with my family.
Yeah, and I think last time we had a chat, I think families really changed you in a very positive way, Janette. Is that correct? Or
That's very correct. That's very true.
oh
That's what I meant.
wow.
Yeah, that's very true. I have a daughter
Hmm.
that's who's coming up 3 years old. So
Wow.
having her, it's it's a key change. It's a key milestone, I think. For me,
Hmm.
and then having married for, let me think about it, almost 9 years.
Wow.
9 years. nine
Yeah.
years. Also a very, it's a life-changing, finding the right partner, etc. It's, it's again, it's a milestone for me as well.
How does it feel to be a mum?
I always thought I wanted to be a mom, but unfortunately, I'm those kind of very traditional person. I need to have a husband, and then I become a mom, and etc. It's been life-changing. It's been so rewarding. It's worth living, I guess.
Wow, that powerful.
It's very, very powerful. It's, seeing a little person growing from a little worm, I always call her a little worm, to become a person and gaining awareness and knowing the surroundings, recognizing you, learning how to speak, etc. It's extremely rewarding. I haven't seen anything or haven't experienced anything in my life as rewarding as this.
Yeah, it's absolutely beautiful, isn't it?
Absolutely. Yeah.
And does she look like you or
She looked like a mix of my husband, mostly my husband. Her personality is completely me.
yeah,
It's reminded me of my when I was a little girl. But I guess she looked like half, a little bit, maybe 80% my husband and 20% myself. But the personality is definitely, I can see me in there.
yeah, I can sort of see the glow when you talk about your daughter. Um, I know you mentioned last time that, obviously, having a daughter is sort of a re, bit of a reprioritization in terms of your life. Would that be correct? Or
Yes. So growing up, I guess I always been very career focused, or when I was younger it was more like school results and driving, that
achieve,
part of.
achieve, achieve.
Yeah, I didn't think I was very competitive, but maybe I was. I'm still am. But it's just that life has more things to think about, to enjoy, to spend time with than just working. So it's more multidimensional rather than very single-minded. And I do think it make me a better person also, even reflecting in my work life.
Hmm. Was there a catalyst, Jeanette, if you don't mind me asking? Like, I know from how we met 10 years ago, I always found you as someone very ambitious, um, wanting to move forward. And I think in a prior conversation, you mentioned that to me as well. Was there a switch somehow, maybe in the past 4 or 5 years, that made you realize, you know what, maybe there's more to life than just going, work, 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 work? Was there something that sparked something in you or?
It's a progression. I think it's life progression. I think that I will call it that way, you realize that, I hate to say that when we're older, it's not just, you realize that there are more to life than one single thing, even though that single thing may be still very important for you. Also, in an environment, I think, with a lot of different people, there are interactions, it just that, sometimes you need to step back a little bit and think about what's important to you so that you can move forward even more. And
You do.
you're not gonna be like burned out. Not gonna be too disappointed in life. You're not gonna be too stressed out. So that really requires of thinking, not single-minded. Think about a wider aspect of things. Reprioritize your life, and then so that it's more sustainable. I think that's what it is. It's not a single moment. It's not like, oh, I'm having my daughter, so I'm not going to work hard. It's definitely not that. It's more like, you experience things, and in order to be sustainable, in order for you to be still creative, still motivated, still enthusiastic about what you're doing, you need to reprioritize things, right? And you realize there's no one single thing that should dominate your life.
Interesting. You make a good point. So it's less about a single event, more so about life experiences sort of coming together. You're going along life, and then you sort of realize, hey, I need to work on something else that's going to be a bit more fulfilling. Hey.
Yeah, and step back a little bit from, if you when we met 10 years ago, right?
Yeah.
I was very focused. This is my I'm a salesperson. I always think about, this is my territory. This is how I'm going to drive business. This is how I'm going to, drive
hit that
sales.
number and
Exactly, right? That's what I've been, I still think that way because I'm still running a sales team, right? But you also have to sometimes think about, we all dealing with people. A deal, it's full of people, right? So having that life aspect, knowing different things, how it work together, helps you to manage more, in my opinion, more complex deals, complex
interesting.
organizations, right? And
Interesting.
if you have new members, and my teaching experience with my kids also shows me that, how do I add value for this growing team, right? How do I add value? How do I motivate them? And I don't believe in, I need to yell at them and every day is like, you got to go do this. So I need to motivate them. They need to be self-driven, right? So it helps me, like I said, it helps me a lot also with my approach, in a work environment as well.
Interesting. So you're saying, as a result of gaining that sort of newfound understanding that there's more to life, and obviously with your daughter, you've actually become a better leader.
I think so. I think moms can
Wow,
be
interesting. That's very profound. Wow. Is it more, so when you think about it, that's actually very interesting, Janette. So in a way, you developed greater empathy for your team. Is that correct?
Absolutely. I
Interesting.
think
Very interesting.
it's a very difficult, and Jeff, you've been a salesperson in the past as well. It's a very fine line to be showing empathy and driven. I think these two things can coexist, but there is a very, very fine line, that how showing your empathy, understanding the challenges that we face when we're driving some complex deals, but at the same time, so you are backing your team up, you're backing, whoever's running, doing that, responsibilities. But at the same time, we need to have a goal, right? I think that's no different. In terms of working with my daughter, I can't be telling her, you got to do this, you got to do that. That, one, it doesn't resonate. Two, it's not from her. You're not really developing her. But it's the same, a lot of the time in a work setup.
Interesting. It's sort of like saying, the whole sort of analogy is that if you teach someone to fish, they can always catch a fish. But if you give it to them straight away, they're not going to learn anything. But like I said, Jenna, that's a very fine balance. So how do you, like, this is amazing, right? How do you balance performance with empathy? Because if you've got a complex deal, you need to hit it by quarter end, for example. How do you balance the performance mindset of hitting it by quarter end versus the empathy of a salesperson, for example, in your team who's struggling?
Yeah, there's no easy answer, Jeff. I work with a team of amazing sales professionals, right? I also have my managers who are extremely, sales focused. So I think it's working with different team members and really again, it's about priorities, right? Showing empathy is part of my personality, being a mother and etc. So that's in me, right? So I will always have that aspect of it. But there are also a lot of high priorities that I see from the senior management, from my team members, etc. So you really need to, sort of like put them all together, rebalancing them, reprioritize them, depending on the situation to maximize it. So there's no easy answer. I can't tell you like, you do 50% of the empathy and then 50% of the sales focus, because it doesn't work, right? So it's a blending, and it's changing as you go. So it depends on the situation. But I do think that missing empathy, it's, maybe some people can do it really well. It's in my personality, it's in my way of doing things. It's important. It makes me how I lead the team, how I work with others, but also having that sharp focus, especially in, I am in a sales world, in that sharp sales focus. It's absolutely necessary to balance the two.
You have to, because if you don't get the balance, you might be a fantastic leader, right? But at the end of the day, if you don't get the result, it sort of defeats the purpose, doesn't it?
Yeah, you not deliver, then you let the team down, right? So remember that also, you know, um, when I say team, it's really we have to work together. I don't let them down, they don't let me down, right? So it's important that we are working on the same goal. Same as my daughter. Really, I tell her all the time, we're same team. We have a goal, right? This is what we're
We're a
gonna.
team.
Exactly, exactly.
It's interesting, Jeanette. Sometimes in a sales organization, depending on the culture as well, sometimes I find organizations are very individualistic, where can you really work in a team in a sales environment? I suppose it really depends on the KPI, right?
It's really difficult, Jeff.
Yeah,
It's
it
really
is.
difficult because sales is you know, a very selfish thing. I think it's a very selfish thing. It's almost like it's not a win-win situation, right? A lot of people think it's not a win-win situation. It's
Amongst your team, right? Amongst your fellow colleagues. Yes, I
yeah,
agree.
and you lose, right? Sort of like that kind of situation. I think it's really important. Organization culture. Organization culture is really important. When I did my MBA, straight after school, I remember the thing that we were taught and talked about a lot is organization structure. And I was like, communication, organization structure. Now I really recognize that MBA, you really need to have some work experience before you go back to MBA, right?
Yep.
Because organization's culture is something that intangible, but it's so important to everybody, because everybody has this set of invisible rule that we need to work with each other. It may not be maximizing my benefit, but this is the norm, and we will be working together. And then you have the managers kind of maintain that level of integrity. So there's no short answer, and it is a very fine art, I will say.
Mm.
So I think the organization structure and the effort maintaining that organization structure is really important, because then you empower people at the management level to execute that, and then that will get down to the working level. And look, you don't have to love the other person, but we don't do anything that's going to hurt others, and we're going to cultivate this team spirit as much as possible. Because at the end of the day, I do really think that once we get the momentum, right? Once you get the momentum, it's not a you win, I lose situation. It's a win-win situation. There is a very big market. There is a lot of opportunities. We just all have to look out for it and work together.
I love it. So it's very much an approach of abundance as opposed to a zero-sum game.
Correct. I don't
Wow.
believe there are a lot of zero-sum game.
Let's be honest,
I
it
guess
is. It's a lot of
but it's also very mindset, right? If you can just think outside the box, don't assume it must be zero-sum game. Maybe for that period of time it is, because it seems that, and I've experienced so many times, at that point in time you felt like, okay, I'm losing everything, I'm always the one losing. But if you can step back a little bit, you notice I always talk about, if you step back a little bit, look around and see opportunities, find those opportunities. It's not necessary. A lot of the time we think it's a zero-sum game. It's because mentally we assume so, and we behave like that.
But obviously, as a leader now, Janette, you can very much control, so to speak, that culture that then filters down to your sales managers and your account executives, for example, your account managers, right? So that's brilliant, Janette, how you've actually instilled you being a mum now into an organization where you're creating that empathy and really working as a team. So that means your daughter is going to be absolutely amazing when she turns 5 years old.
I hope so. I hope so. I mean, I have to also give a lot of credit to my husband. He is a very logical person, very structural. So it really helps us to, we're very passionate about our kid, right? Sometimes I think parents are too passionate. Oh, you're the cutest, you're the best. It's not the best thing for them. You know what I mean? So sometimes just having that emotion, show your passion, show your affection towards your kids, but also have very structural things to make sure that they understand, certain things, right? Boundaries, they understand what they need to do, etc. So I have to give a lot of credit that, my interaction with my kid, I use it at work, and at workplace, some of the things I use it back with my daughter, but some of the things I learn a lot from my husband as well, the way that she worked with my daughter.
Wow.
For example,
yeah,
training independent.
Wow. So your husband tries to sort of teach your daughter independence, right? Is that correct?
Hugely, yeah.
How does he do that? And I'm curious to see how you would then apply that to your sales team.
So, I mean, independence, I always wanted to be everyone to be independent, right? The more that they're more self-motivated, they can initiate their own things to do, as long as we understand what the goal is, that's better, right? You have, as a sales manager, you have less work, selfishly, right? But also you empower them to do a lot of things, right? Now, so I understand the benefit of that, but to see that how it works with my daughter and then apply to my team, it's a different story. So with with a kid, they have a strong tendency to be very clingy to their parents, right? In this case, my daughter always just cry and come to me. So one of the examples that we need to train her to be independent is to sleep independently around 6 months old.
Wow.
So
okay.
Yeah. So as a Chinese mother, I don't believe in this like sleeping independently, but we've read and I remember that I mentioned about knowledge as well. So as you progress in life, there are a lot of things you just didn't know. I didn't know because I never had a kid before. So I read a lot of research that, sleeping independently will really help the kid to be independent, better quality for yourself, sleeping quality for the parents, better sleeping quality for the kid. And so it ended up that you will have more, quality time to be with the kid, right? So it's a goal that we desire, that, is a desirable
It's a
goal.
win-win goal.
Exactly. So now the execution was very difficult. I was worried that she's going to vomit. I was worried that she's going to suffocate. And then the, sudden infant SID, things like
It's
that.
real.
So
Yes.
it's real. So we just need to, we have this like monitor. So the execution was very difficult. And my husband, and she regressed multiple times. We got her trained 6 months for a week. She screamed for 1.5 hours first day, 25 minutes the second day, vomited third day, and then the fourth day, 5 minutes, and fifth day, done. 9 months regressed. One day, one night, she was not feeling well. I slept with her, then that's it. That's completely ruined, and then we have to redo it. So it's difficult, but we need to be very
Consistent.
yes, to make sure that execution. Now, same, when you think about work environment, it's the same, right? You want people to be self-motivated. You want people to initiate things themselves. You want people to not drop the ball, right? And it's something that people tend to not do it, right? Oh, I already done in that small little deal. I did like 3 small little deal. I'm done. I maybe I'm not 100%, but I'm like 95%. I'm not going to get fired. So you need to motivate them what you need to do. It's more difficult, but what do you need to do to drive bigger and complex deals so you don't have this little ones, right? So we just need to, we set the goal that it's a win-win situation. We execute it. We be persistent so that it doesn't regress and come back to what your comfort zone is. And I think they really have a lot of parallel that we can work on it.
I didn't know that. That's actually very new to me. I never really thought about that. Wow. So as a leader then, Janette, to me, it seems that anyone part of your team can really feel it, because I'm feeling it right now from you, that you are very much team when it
I'm
comes to leadership.
if you briefly know me, you always know that I'm very passionate and I like talking. So they all hear me talking and very passionate about sales. I am very passionate also about sales because I think when I first graduated, I hated salesperson because my dad was a civil engineer, right? He came from an engineering background. So we always think like, and also maybe I'm biased. The Chinese culture is that, we got to work, we got to know things. We're not going to sell because sales are just not scientific, right? But I changed throughout the years with my career, especially when I joined this firm, Starmine. You probably heard of it, and where I met my husband, and I turned myself from a product specialist to a salesperson because there are, being a salesperson is a very scientific thing, and that resonates really, really well with me, right? You're passionate about it, you have a skill set, and it's scientific, so you can execute on things and then to get the desirable results. That's what
Interesting.
my team can
Interesting.
feel.
Interesting. Sales is very much, it is, I agree with you. Sales is very much a science game, but there's also an art game to it, isn't it? But
It is.
But it seems in your case, you're able to apply the rational slash process approach to sales with the empathy slash people skills, and you sort of combine into one.
Yeah, I mean, there are many ways of performing a particular task or job, right? There are very different salespeople. They don't need to be scientific. They are such a charming person. They understand the motivation of different buying parties and etc. So you always have those people that they can just magically do sales, right? Very large deal, people like to deal with them, they get all the information they need. I'm not that kind of person, right? So I think the important thing is that think about your strength. I can't change I can minimize my weaknesses, but I know what my strengths are, right? I like presentation, I like talking, I like communicate with people. I am very driven, I'm passionate, and I'm systematic, right? So if I combine this and I'm passionate about sales, then I can apply those skill set to make me a successful salesperson and then become a successful, sales manager, hopefully.
No, I think it's a very sound sort of approach, Jeanette. So, as a leader, I realize also that, correct if I'm wrong, in the current organization, you're also part of a group that empowers women leaders. Is that correct? Or
Yeah, I am. This year I'm the co-chair of the Women's BRG Business Resources Group. So it is a business resources group that we set up for within Moody's, my company. I don't want to advertise my company, but within my company, that to really, provide a few things. One is empower women, of course, to celebrate and to create that communities for professional women, right? There are certain things that are very specific to well-beings, our particular, preference of things and knowledge, social media. How do we, just make ourselves more um, obvious. I sometimes, women tend to, I'm not saying everyone, but sometimes we notice that women tend to be, I'm going to work on these things, but maybe not making themselves to be known by others, right? So this business resources group is really trying to internally provide some support and development to our young women professionals, but also to celebrate their success and care about their well-beings and etc. Externally, how do you promote yourself? Like, promote yourself in a way that, hey, I achieve these things, or hey, I have these skill sets and etc. So yes, I'm the co-chair together with my partner in Singapore to run this group.
wow. So I'm curious, what do you sort of see as, apart from women sort of not showcasing their work, so to speak, um, what are you really hoping to achieve with this sort of VRG sort of foundation? Are you looking, is it a certain number? Is it a sort of a qualitative sort of undertaking?
Yeah,
What's the mission?
yeah. So within a very small scale of of things that we do have very specific objectives. Yes, we do want more members, meaning that people actually show that they care about it. It can't be, again, I think like anything, it should be two ways, right? We set out wanted to be, hey, maybe this is what the professional women want, but we also need feedback, right? No, this is not exactly what I want. I wanted this and that, right? So we have this membership, members group. So we do want to increase in general the members so that we have more voice coming to to make sure that things that we do actually benefit a bigger group of people. Like I said, the objectives, there's internal and external. So we would like to organize events for knowledge sharing. For example, how do you improve your communication skills? Why people are afraid of speaking up? What is a good communication skill? What is effective communication skill? So we organize events to share with the group. I guess it's not women specific, but anyone who's interested in learning about these. So we have very specific events that we organized for our members. We also have, and we are pretty inclusive. Our, again, this is our theory also. It shouldn't be, there are specific needs of women's needs, right? But many things that should not be gender specific, like communications, right? Interpersonal skills, knowledge sharing, etc. Our committee also has men, because the it's not gender specific. There are also gender specific events. For example, breast cancer, right? Women tend to have much higher percentage breast cancer and etc. So that's our goal of setting up these events and make sure that we're sharing this knowledge. Also, we run workshops to provide knowledge to to the group to kind of enhance their career as well. So
Interesting.
that's what we are trying to do.
I was sort of wondering, Janette, you know how these skills you mentioned in terms of communication skills, negotiation skills, speaking up, right? I always wondered why you don't learn this stuff during university, for example, or schools.
I did. I
Oh,
did.
okay.
So it's not something that. So I study in Hong Kong, City University. So I remember that the last 2 years of my university, there were a lot of presentations, right? It really depends on whether you take that seriously, right? That was the time I started to think about when I'm doing a presentation, what do I really need to do? Do I read the slides? Do I put everything on the slide? Will people find it interesting? What is a effective communication, right? If I, is it from my perspective or is it from the audience perspective, right? So what I've learned, and I forgot the teacher's name, but he said that he always, for a 3 minutes presentation, he spends hours to remember those points, to internalize those points and present it in a way that he doesn't seem like he's memorizing it, right? So that's, I think, the presentation skills that I learned in university formally, right? Because we do really have to present those, and there were a lot of very poor presentations. So I make sure that I don't. Communication skills, I think that's why COVID is so restriction is so devastating for younger people. It's through real-time interaction and social media also. You in a university life, secondary school life, you interact with your peers, right? And you through that practice, many years of practice, you understand that how you get attention, right? How you convey a message, etc. So I think from an interpersonal skill perspective, I don't think there is a formal course to do that, but it's really the day-to-day interactions. And with the social media and young people obsessed with the social media, as well as the COVID restriction of in-person class, it's devastating. That really hinder their learning in terms of how to interact with people. Screen time, that's another thing that, my daughter is almost 3. We have not turned on any TV for almost 3 years. So she only read book. And I really, really highly recommend that. I know it's tough. Sometimes I'm not a TV addict. I don't really watch TV at all, and my husband is the same. We do look at our phone, but our TV never turned on. The only time it turned on is, I think it's American football, because he follows American football. That's about it. So you can help to develop young kids' attention so that they can work on that skill set.
Wow, I'm seeing a lot of parallel with, for someone who said to me, Janette, I'm not too sure what I would say. This is very exciting in terms of how you're finding the connection between rearing your daughter, a sales team, but also the soft skills required for life. So it's a great sort of knowledge sort of coming together of what you're doing here. So do you find nowadays when you have a sort of a younger person looking to join your organization in a sales role, do you see those skills there? Or are you saying, obviously with COVID, it's been tricky for a lot of the younger folk to experience what it's like to be in an organization and speak with customers?
Yeah, so my team is slightly in a different setup. So to answer your question, I still see very, I have like a young professional woman joined me maybe 6 months ago. She's fantastic. I can see that great interpersonal skills, very hardworking. It's hard to see these days, very hardworking, get things done very efficiently, etc. So I do see that, right? I know every older generation think, the younger generation is not good, etc. That's not true. We are progressing, right? So however, there is also a view that, my particular role, because I run the sales team and I mostly hire very experienced salespeople. They are, if you will, they already filter to a group of people that they've been through it. They must have good interpersonal skills. They must have good communication skills to be able to achieve to go to that group of people, right? But I also see younger people. There's only just one person that I hired recently who are very young and just fantastic, right? I see a lot of good potential. Now, when I look around, though, you see, in Hong Kong, glasses, you take an MTR, everyone is on their phone. No one wants to talk. You get a text message rather than someone talking to you. Those are all very valuable time to practice your communications, to appreciate people, to have that, to learn from other people, to look at the facial expressions, right? To feel passionate about life and etc. Right? So I just don't see that. And then if you look at today's social media, we have Instagram. I'm not even on Instagram because I'm too old, right?
And then, no judgments, Janette, no judgments.
and then, Snapchat, TikTok, those are all 2 seconds to 2 minutes video, right? Can someone actually read a book and learn about knowledge? And I really hit me hard lately because I even find myself cannot read a book, right? Because it just distraction. Oh, boop, there's an email. How can you
even
learn?
Okay, wow.
So
even for yourself, Janette, you're finding that you're getting distracted as well? Is that?
Yeah, so I have to set particular time, no email, no electronic device next to me, solid 1 hour. I'm going to read book. I'm going to track my progress. I'm going to try to get into it. I'm going to try to, it just, again, it's about structure of your life, right? If you let it go, just like, it's okay. It's just one email. That's okay. Let me just read it. Then you're just not focused, right? You're not learning anything.
Yeah, if you let that one email in, you can look at another one, then another one, and before you know it, it's like 45 minutes, an hour gone. And that time could have been spent with your daughter, for example. I'm guilty too. My wife goes to me, you must finish by 6:30 max every day. And she's right.
We try. It's difficult. It's difficult.
It is.
Yeah, we just have to try. We have to.
As long as you try, I think that's the main thing. Because I don't think neither of us are going to be perfect. And one of the biggest things, you talk about marriage, you talk about your husband, you talk about how it's important that he brings a different side to the marriage in terms of, rational, in terms of the passion as well. It's the same thing with my wife. She's very much brings the stability and control to how I operate. Because if I'm focused on something, I'm focused on something. But I do know now with 2 kids, the game changes. Wow, this is, we've gone everywhere now. So as a sales leader, Janette, how do you switch off? Like, can you switch off? Because you're always going to be on the go, really.
That's a really good question. I never was able to switch off. If you remember when we overlapped the time, I used to report to New York. I would check my email 3 a.m., responded back. And I was so proud of myself because I was like, I'm the most efficient one. I can answer a lot of questions. I know everything, blah, 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 right?
I answer things very timely.
I've changed. I've changed. I mean, you can never really switch off. You just have to. And I remember I listened to this podcast, and they said that it used to be people talk about work-life balance. Work-life balance. It's a zero-sum game. It's either work or life, and you need to balance it. Nowadays, we think about, how do I maximize my enjoyment, pleasure out of work so that my work and life are merged a little bit, and they are in a way that we optimize it, right? Because we can't make it perfect. And I
Good point.
really, really agree with that approach. So there is no absolute switch off. So I tend to, after 7 o'clock, I will have my dinner time and putting my daughter to sleep. And then, I will read a little bit before I have my glass of wine. And then I will have my rest time, but I will start checking emails because I already finished my, reading time. And that's where I really need to focus a little bit, because otherwise the knowledge just doesn't retain, right? And then I start working, a little bit of email, responding to maybe some carryover email. But at the same time, during the daytime, I'm trying to maximize my, productivity, right? Productivity, not distracting by emails, but really working on things that I think have the maximize impact of, sales results, for example, in this perspective. So I'm trying to maximize the work part, and then, also have the life part, enjoy, because I am actually really, in a way that I really enjoy what I do. I really find job satisfaction. So it's not like work
I
makes
can
me,
feel it.
yeah.
So it's very much work-life integration for you, Janette, as opposed to work-life balance.
That's right. Yeah. I just find it very difficult to completely, you know, especially if you, and to be honest, right, if you move up to your career, I'm not super senior, but in a way that, I have a team, there are certain expectation, etc. And I thoroughly enjoy to be successful in my career, right? So I think it's important that we also recognize when your career progress that you have to change your expectation a little bit, so to optimize your enjoyment out of work and life.
That is very well said.
At least that's how I think and what I'm trying to achieve.
So it's more about adjusting your. So when you say expectation, what do you mean expectations, Janette? Like, for
So
example,
let's a simple example. If you join a company as a very junior staff, you're just kind of helping others. Hey, sales coordinator, right? Someone has a deal and then some contract issues and you're dealing with it, and then you go home and that's it, right? So that's a sales coordinator. And then slowly you progress to be a senior sales manager, that you have a team of people. You can't just expect, like, I go to work and then I help each other and then, off work, I'm done, right? It's not, because your responsibility expanded a lot. So your expectation, your work will adjust based on the progression of your career as well. So you can't expect, well, but so and so is doing that, well, she's really junior or he's really junior and you are really senior. So I just think that if we recognize it, to solve a problem, you need to first recognize there's a problem, right? Or there's a difference. And then you acknowledge it, and then you think about what are the solution for it. That's all what I
and
mean
obviously
by.
when you think about the solution and when you take into account what's going on, you can therefore find a solution that better optimizes your current situation.
Yeah, I think optimization is my way of doing things, because there's no
Very
absolute.
systematic approach.
Yep.
Wow. Okay, I'm learning a lot here. So, you made a good point that if you're a senior sales manager, for example, and if you don't mind me asking, Janette, how big's your team?
My team it's a regional team, so it's about 13. I don't remember, 10
So,
to 13 sales individuals. Yeah.
so that's substantial. And
It's
I'm
a mid-sized team.
yeah. So I'm guessing obviously there's obviously one-on-ones, there's different personalities. You're right. You are very much responsible for the collective. And you can't just go, okay, I'm coming in at 9, I finish at 6, I'm done. And then repeat since you're the manager. So it's very interesting for those aspiring to be in your position, Janette, that it's the real deal becoming a sales leader. It's I don't say full on in a negative way. I say it in a way where it's encompassing because you are responsible for others.
Yeah. Yeah, I think, as I mentioned, it's a team, right? At least my approach, we are a team. I need to be there for you, and I need you to be there for me because we are in the same boat, right? We all need to hit this particular target or execute this particular sales strategy. It's not like, just I'm telling you, if my job it's just to tell you, you got to do this and then show me the result, then I'm not doing my job. That's my theory.
Because like I said, you're very much empowering your team so that they can then find a solution for themselves.
Correct. And there's another thing that,
Interesting.
I've been a sales manager for how many years? Let me think about it. Maybe 2000, I started at 2007. So to now it's 15 years, right?
15
I
years as a
feel,
sales leader.
and I have some very outstanding, amazing sales team members. They really, truly, some of the deals that they run, I ask myself, will I be able to run those deals? Probably not, right? Because they're just so optimized to run these complex deals. A question I always ask myself, what is my value add then?
Good question. What is your value add then? Good
What
question.
is value add, right? So I constantly asking myself, and that's where you need to understand what is really going on with these complex deals. What are you providing support that this person will find that, okay, if you do this for me, if you tell me this, or you support me with this, or you give me idea of this, then I will be able to even maximize my deal size, right? From a very pure sales perspective. Can you help me to handle internal hurdles? Can you help me to engage with very senior people externally, right? So, I think as a sales manager, I always ask, my theory is always to be, what is your value add? So that you can help to drive the deal, but you at the same time, you still empower your sales team members to do it themselves. You see what I mean? Like, if you do everything for them, then you're not empowering them and you're not leading them. You are just doing it for them. If you step back so far away that you're not providing any support to them, then you're just a figurehead. You're not adding value to the process. You're not maximizing the benefits, right? So again, I'm still learning. As I move to a different organization, there are a lot of knowledge. There are a lot of clients network and etc. So that is I think a very important aspect of becoming a sales manager. Knowledge that knowledge and question that I ask myself.
And like you said, you can't really give anyone a hard and fast rule as to how you can add value because everyone is different. Every deal is different. So it's very much on your part as a sales leader to really understand the individual intricacies between every single deal. Because if you apply some sort of blanket approach to every single complex deal, you might have one of your account executives go, you know what, Janette has no idea what she's talking about.
Right. Totally. If it becomes so
Good point.
removed from the team.
You're just a
And
figurehead.
exactly.
Well said. 15 years of experience as a sales leader. That's lovely. Okay, so this is very fascinating to me, right? So obviously, when the weekend comes around, Janette, you're able you don't work, right? You may check a few emails here and there, or
No, I don't work. Just emails and etc. And our company set out a policy that, you know, we really trying to avoid any communications. Like even for me, I'll set up, the email will go out. I will think about something, but instead of sending it out right away, I'll set up an alert that Monday I need to send this bunch of emails, right? So I still kind of think
you think
about
about
things.
it.
I think about it, I put it aside, I draft the email, and then Monday I send it out.
Interesting. So I can feel the passion coming from you, Jeanette. Um, do, you, do you apply that passion to other aspects of your life? I know we talked about your daughter, your husband. I know when I was looking at your questionnaire, you mentioned climate and plastic. Is that more of a passion there as well, where you can parlay your skills into the area, or?
I'm still trying to figure it out. So if I stop working, Bill Gates really inspired me. Really, I think he's doing many fantastic things, and he's not it. His knowledge and his experience and his energy, it's still his prime time, and he decided to do something bigger than just running a profitable organization. I think this is, I definitely at some point in my life, if I have the opportunity to do that, I definitely wanted to do that. Maybe it's a smaller scale. I'm not sure because I'm not as well funded as him, as you can imagine. But yes, so climate is definitely a area that I would love to learn more. It's a very complex system, right? We know that there's the CO2 emission and then increasing CO2 somehow related to increasing temperature, which will create disaster things. I want to learn more about it. I wanted to recognize the problem. If there is a problem, understand the problem. Can we solve the problem? Right. So that's something that I'm extremely interested and passionate about. Maybe I didn't mention it, I'm extremely, since a young age, passionate about animal. I have 3 cats. Last month we fostered another cat, so I have all the cats running around. And I love dogs also, just so happen we have cats. My dog passed away 3 years ago. So I'm passionate about animals. Anything that we can do, in terms of industrial, sort of like farming and etc. If we can improve the quality of life of animals, I would love to. We know there's a problem, so it's not about I want to learn more. Probably understand more how we can solve the problem and reduce the suffering of the animals. That's something that I'm really passionate.
Is that more in a sense of food production? Is that correct? Or is that?
It's all aspect. So food production, in terms of just animal welfare. It's people can't just dump their animal because they need to move to another country. They're having a kids. It's a life, right? So obviously we understand farm animal. We eat them, right? So that's something that's one part of the
Ecosystem.
yeah. And then there is the part that this is your pet, this is your companion, but you're not treating it as a companion when difficult time comes. You wouldn't dump your kid, right?
Yeah,
You wouldn't dump your parents. You wouldn't dump your sick partners. Why would you do that to a companion that you call just happened to be a pet, right? So animal welfare, I think, that's really important, and I'm passionate about it. I would love to learn more, like how do we, from a legal system perspective, to protect them. So climate, animals, plastic, of course. What can we do? Because it's useful. Plastic is useful. We can't just say like everything change to non-plastic. It's impossible, right? We use it in every aspect of life. How do we manage it? Is it a logistics issue? Can we pack it somewhere, right? What are the solutions? So that is something that I also, I mean, I understand a lot of people, we really need to think about large scale, right? A lot of people think about, you need to reduce using plastic, you need to, maybe not use the plastic straw. But at the end of the day, if I look at sales results, if I look at how impactful, if everyone reduce using plastic straw, does that mean we're going to solve the plastic problem? Probably not, right? So what are the biggest area that we can solve? And what is the problem that we're talking about? Is it because of plastic itself? Is it because how we store the plastic? Is it because, what is it? What can we do in a short run to control the problem that bring the impact to the ecosystem, and fish dying, birds dying, and etc.
How about holistically? Because plastic is literally everywhere, right? Straws, wrapping, products, plastic chairs, plastic furniture, the plastic around your laptop, maybe. I always wondered deep down whether, I think it's a hard problem because our world is fixated on growth, economic growth. So, and a big part of economic growth is consumption. So I think, just putting it out there, I think a lot of problems can be alleviated, not eliminated, if we all consumed less.
Yeah, but I need to see, I agree with you. But we also need to see what that social impact, right? So it's a complex system, what that social impact mean to people. Are we going to have more poverty? Is that a desirable outcome if we reduce consumption, right? And what problem are we trying to address, right? I just think that we need to isolate. If we reduce consumption, everything probably holistically, energy, CO2 probably consume less, right? Everything. But are we solving the problem that we think it's the highest priority?
Are we solving the root cause, essentially?
Correct. And what is the social impact of that slow economic growth? People will suffer. Are we creating starvation? I don't know. I'm just thinking that.
You're basically looking at it as an angle where it's very much like a complex sales deal, right? You're looking at all the different parts. How did it all sort of connect to affect the outcome in a way?
Yeah, we yes, because if you can't isolate things, then it's an ecosystem, right? So we need to see that desirable outcome, whether it's still a desirable outcome, right? When the economic growth slow down, because we always hear when the economic growth slow down, someone will suffer.
Yeah,
right?
someone will. There always will be, right? But if we think abundance and not think zero-sum game, maybe there's a better solution there.
Maybe. So I think it's worth I have a couple of books that I still, it's just so big that I would like to learn about exactly growth. Growth and energy, right? That's one thing to talk about climate, because the growth, look at China, right? How much CO2 that they emitted because of the to power through the growth.
So just to put on the side there, we've got climate, we've got animal, we've got climate in terms of obviously CO2 emissions, for example. We've got animal welfare, we've got plastic use, for example, right? That's quite a bit there. So is this something that you maybe want to look towards going forward as an interest area in maybe a career one day, Janette? Or is it very much a passion project, so to speak?
It's hard to say. It's hard to say. I'm still learning about it. Eventually I would like to do it as a career while I still being productive. It's not something like, I'm old, I can't really do much, and then no. So I do wanted to match my skill set with something that I'm passionate about as a career. Can I do something about it? When the time comes. Right now, I'm just gathering those knowledge. What can be done? Who is doing what? There are a lot of people already doing a lot of great things, right? Can I, can we explore? Can I be just a donor to tap into that, so that it's what is the most efficient way of achieving those passion, things that I'm passionate about.
Interesting. Okay. So, if we were to then circle back to the whole sort of, family now, you still very much have that very ambitious nature, Janette, where you are looking to achieve. But obviously with your daughter now, it very much seems that you're doing it in a very disciplined way now. And I can feel it in how you speak now.
I'm not sure. So you can't change someone's personalities. I will be always, I guess, ambitious, a little bit ambitious, because I always think that we can do better. We can do a little bit more, right? And then I realize, oh, okay, I have like 100 to-do lists, right? So, but this is my nature. I can't really scale back, right? When you talk to
Hey,
me,
but you're enjoying it. You're loving it. I can feel it in you. It's a great conversation.
yeah, I do. I wish sometimes I would just scale back a little bit, but like I said, sometimes you just can't change someone's personality. But my family give me a different perspective. That's why it makes my life much more interesting, because they give you something. I love wine. I always describe as a red wine. I love all kind of wine.
Okay,
But
tell
I
me,
think
what's your favorite? Shiraz, Sauv Blanc?
I can tell you that the taste of it, I don't really particular have. I love Italian wine actually. If you have to, because they just more suitable for my taste. I love big wine. I love, especially with food, right? So red wine to me always with food. And so with food, then if you're eating cheese or meat or dumplings, whatever it is, then it goes well with the big wine. That I use the wine analogy is that when you mix different things, I used to love Merlot when I was younger. I was like, oh, really tasty, and then it becomes so bland because it's missing something, right? Because it was my beginning time started to appreciate wine.
You're optimizing.
That's right. So you add different things to, maybe it's really strong with a particular thing, but then you add other things to make it taste better, right? Your life just tastes better. The journey is more interesting.
So what's your favorite pairing when it comes to red wine? Like, I know obviously it's different. There are different types of wine. There are different types of Italian wine. There are meats, cheeses, and whatnot, right? What's your favorite pairing? If you were to go, okay, this is my last meal, for example, you have a glass of red wine, what would you pair it with?
It'll be Chinese dumpling made by my mom.
Chinese dumplings made by your mum. Okay, tell me, what's inside? What's the filling?
So the Chinese dumpling, so it's handmade. Everything is handmade, including the dough, and the fillings. So we use Chinese chive, pork, shrimp, ginger, spring onion, chop them very fine. I don't know where she finds all those chive, but she chop it herself,
She's
and
a
then
master.
mix them. Yeah, she's a master. I'm also learning it, and I plan to pass it to my daughter as well. So with that, and then seasoning with soy sauce, sesame oil, a little bit of sesame oil, salt, and just that is one type of fillings. And then the second type of fillings will be cabbage, and then pork, shrimp, same thing, ginger, chopped, very finely chopped ginger, spring onion. Seasoning with soy sauce and a little bit of
so that means when I go to Hong Kong, Jeanette, that means you're going to cook it, right?
I will try.
And it's going to be on par with your mum. Is it
Yep.
steamed? Is it fried? Is it
It's
sort of
boiled.
boiled?
It's boiled. Yeah.
Red wine, boiled dumplings. Wouldn't it, I don't know. I don't drink wine, right? But from my memory of before, wouldn't the red wine maybe overpower the dumpling if it's boiled?
No, The northern dumplings are very strong taste. I'm actually Cantonese from my dad's side, but my mom is from Tianjin. I completely inherited the northern side of the taste. So I have very, very strong. So the chive, it's quite salty. First of all, the chive, it's
It's
extremely
also
Chinese,
quite a pungent smell.
very, very strong smell. You, if my mom's making dumplings, you know Hong Kong's apartment building, the lift open and you can smell it, like the entire
Oh,
floor smells like chives, right?
whoa.
Um,
My stomach is
and then
grumbling. I'm ready.
you mix it with vinegar, the Chinese dark vinegar,
Yeah,
a little bit of soy sauce as for the dip, and then with a lot of chili oil,
a
chili
lot of
paste,
chili oil.
chili oil, chili paste. There's no way they just balance it so well,
Oh,
you know, with
wow.
red big Italian one, Primitivo, whatever it is. What's the other one? Copolocino. Some Italian names. I can recognize the bottle. So big, nice Italian wine. Just it's so good. It's so full of life.
Oh, I am sold. I am sold. So Tianjin, obviously from your mum's side, is that correct? Wow. Okay. So I think so the flavors in northern China are definitely on the stronger side, isn't it?
Very strong. No sugar. So Cantonese food, more sort of like seafood and sugar. The northern side, it's more chili,
Heavier,
flour,
heavier, so
rose,
to speak.
heavy meat.
Stronger flavors.
Yeah.
I like it. You learn something every day. Um, Jeanette, don't mind me. We've spoken for over an hour now. Um, it's been interesting to sort of gauge, just to keep it open, isn't it? You know, we've gone from your daughter, a sales team,
Yeah.
empowering young leaders, talk about dumplings, red wine, climate, plastic. This is what it's all about. Um, now I'm
You are
cognizant,
really great, like leading those stories out. I thoroughly enjoy this conversation.
like I said, you know, I just wanted to be yourself. You just have to leave everything else to me, right? Now, I'm always aware of not taking up too much of your time, Jeanette. I have a question for you, right? Um, let's park everything to the side. In 30 years' time, where do you see yourself? Paint me a picture.
Mm.
Paint me a
In
picture.
30 time,
30 years' time.
so there are a couple of things. I would still like to be with my husband. My daughter's probably, you know, have her own life. I still wanted to be with my husband. He's always a very important part of my life, and I thoroughly enjoy the last 9 years with him. I want to be productive still. I wanted to contribute, you know, do things that we talked about, passionate about. You know, I'm still sharing my knowledge with others. I'm still acquiring knowledge. I think this is really important. I can still exercise. I love exercise. Also, I can still run, you know, or
Ah,
walk. So, and I hope that my family, so my sister and, you know, my parents, that will be a stretch, but, you know, family are extremely important. I have very, very close relationship with my sister and her family as well. So we will be still together and that will be it.
so it's very much the relationships in 30 years' time and very much retaining who you are in terms of that ambition, that productivity, training that mind, isn't it?
Yeah. And doing
Less
things that you like, doing things that you like.
doing things that you like, eh? And so it's less so it's less about a physical place, more about the relationships. I think your husband one was a good one. You better make
Yeah.
sure your husband watches this later on, eh, and listens. I think he'd be very
Oh,
happy.
I tell him all the time. I tell him all the time. I do not, I'm not those. people like, oh, it's too cheesy. I tell him all the time. I say, I love spending time with you. I wanted to spend the rest of my life with you, and it's been a very good journey, and we should, work together as a team until the end.
I think it's a good reminder for me to say the same thing to my wife. I've known my wife now for over 20 years now.
Oh, great.
But it's always a good reminder.
Yeah.
We have a newborn. She's 6 weeks now, as you know. And as you know, when the kids are young, we've got a 4.5-year-old. Time, you really got to optimize your time, and it's all about that priorities, Janette. Now, before we sort of sign off, any sort of final words that you want to share?
I just enjoy life, do things that you like. And I am guilty of that also. Don't take things too seriously. Really,
see, I knew we would have that connection. I don't take things too seriously, Jen, and I always have a laugh.
You can't. I know it's easier to say than done, but just remind yourself, don't take things too seriously. Do things that you love about. Do it now. Try not to say like, I wish I had done that. Just say, I will do it.
I could, I should, I got to do this, I got to do that. Just do it.
Yeah, just do it.
Lovely. Lovely, Janette. Thank you for your time today.
Thank you so much, Jeff. As I said, I thoroughly enjoyed this chat. I learned something about you as well. And thank you for giving me this opportunity.
It takes two to tango, Janette.
Absolutely. Have a great